How's it going, everybody? My name is AbSOULeM and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be addressing all of the things that the community, Treyarch, and myself have been talking about surrounding the newest style of Easter eggs and gameplay for Call of Duty Zombies. This is something that I take very seriously, not only for my channel's sake, but as a member of this community. I've been playing this game since World at War, and I've always been excited to see our beloved game mode evolve over the last decade. And throughout the many years, I've had the chance to meet a lot of wonderful people in this community. And after starting a channel during Black Ops 4's life cycle, I can honestly say that I've never enjoyed zombies as much as I have during that time. It was all new and exciting, and I got to see a very different side of zombies after going from being a player to a content creator. And it's because of my passion for this game and its community that I'm making this video today. I've been on all sides of this mode, and in this video, I'm going to be using my experience to explain why the way the Easter eggs are the way they are right now is not the way forward. Now, to start this video off, I'm going to be covering all of the basics in case you guys have missed any of the recent developments. With the release of Die Maschine, the concept of a guided Easter egg was implemented into Treyarchs Zombies. This was accompanied by a handful of side Easter eggs that involved intel and very few steps. Right away, the Zombies community felt very split. They either loved it or they hated it. While most of us were more focused or, well, better yet, distracted by the load of content, we actually failed to see how this would affect us later on. But now with the bulk of the grinding done, Firebase Z entered the scene, and with it, another guided Easter egg. Firebase Z was solved in only 2 hours and 17 minutes. The side Easter eggs were primarily solved in a matter of hours as well, with the 2 remaining Easter eggs that would then be solved only a couple days later, resulting in a completed map in only a few days' time. This is when the community really started to ramp up and become divided over guided Easter eggs, which are now being named story quests by Treyarch. After the outpour from the community, whether they praised it or disagreed, Treyarch recently published an article where they speak out about their reasons for the guided story quest. This is following their latest mode, Outbreak, which unfortunately had no Easter eggs at the release, but with promise of a quest being added into the mode soon, the community has really started to voice their opinions regarding everything that has happened so far in Cold War Zombies. And now with the basics out of the way, I'm going to start by breaking down what guided steps even are and how they impact the game and the future of the game mode. Guided steps are Easter egg steps that are using either visual or audio cues to help the player easily accomplish the task at hand. And well, in Firebase's case, there's even a time-based auto-completed step in case the visual and audio cues just weren't enough. These types of steps are very different to the previous style of complicated and cryptic-natured steps, and with today's Easter eggs, I'm not really surprised why Treyarch calls them story quest, because to be a true Easter egg, it actually needs to be hidden. I mean, Easter would have sucked as a kid if all the eggs had a speaker next to them going, "Over here! Over here!" So why did Treyarch change the format of their infamously difficult Easter eggs? Well, to understand that, let's take a walk down memory lane to February 1st, 2011. The map Ascension makes its way into the storyline. This is a really big deal because it's the first ever Easter egg added into Zombies. This changed everything. Granted, not many players knew about it at first or how to even do it, but what do you expect when a player base is used to high rounding and then a new foreign playstyle is introduced? But given some time to adjust, players started out what is now the Easter egg hunting community. Treyarch tested the waters with this and then decided to one-up themselves more and more with each map's release. Finally, we arrived at Moon. This was the first truly insane Easter egg that really pushed the storyline and set a precedence for the following games. This Easter egg is unlike any of its predecessors because it changed the future of the world, and it created a reason for players to do the Easter egg in the first place. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about Call of the Dead or Shangri-La, but those Easter eggs themselves, despite what they might have done for the storyline, they didn't affect the world around them after completed. But look at Moon, it blows up the world, creating an opening for Black Ops 2 Zombies. This gave the player base a reason, but also a hands-on visual as to what was coming in the storyline. So with the support of this style of Easter egg, Treyarch moved into Black Ops 2. This is where we really see Treyarch start to push the limits of the storyline by creating two-sided Easter eggs. I would argue that Black Ops 2 is when we really defined how Easter eggs worked among the community. This is where you start to see the rise of the YouTubers now that there's a need for the guides. Although it worked a lot differently back then because it was just getting started and it was more of a way to organize a lot of the findings we had in Zombies and give a voice to the community, whereas now it's a lot more established and, well, a lot more individualized. And so by the end of Origins, the hunting community was thriving and eager for more. That's when Treyarch blessed our community with Black Ops 3, the game that can do no wrong if you ask the bulk of the community. So say what you want as for mechanics, multiplayer, campaign, or what have you, but the Zombies Easter eggs were iconic and considered incredible. Those Easter eggs allowed the community to blow up. You started to see channels from Black Ops 2 just start gaining tons of subscribers, go crazy. You started to see the community really take shape at this point, and Treyarch was our cryptic puppet master all along the way. BO3 changed the community in a major way. At this point, you either played the Easter eggs or you decided to watch a guide. And I know there's a lot of people out there that actually disagree with why this was such a good method. I mean, this past week, I've been seeing several comments like, why wait for a guide when it's so much better that you can solve it alone with guided steps? Isn't this so much better? Or like things like, YouTubers only care about money for their guides, so isn't it actually a good thing that we don't need their guides anymore? This new system is just so much better. And with all these comments, I've also seen a ton of comments on the other side. And my friend It's Perka has also been nice enough to let me use his Twitter feed for this, and I've definitely linked his channel below, so you should go check him out. But essentially what he's been saying is a lot of the same things that I'm saying in this video. He mentions that when a new zombies map releases, it's supposed to feel like an adventure with twists and turns, and it gives a feel of unexpected. But with Cold War, it just doesn't feel like that. He also says that average casual players don't care about the storyline, which I totally agree with. A casual player still watches a guide on YouTube. The game guiding them still doesn't help them at all. He also goes on to mention how this is going to bring more problems than solutions, which I will get to in the rest of this video, but I totally agree with this. And thank you once again, It's Perka, for letting me use this. And believe me, I do truly understand all the casuals' viewpoint on this one, but please allow me a chance to show you my viewpoint throughout this video. But first, let's finish the storyline breakdown. So with Black Ops 3 being the hallmark of tough steps, we entered a new age of zombies. The difficult to solve, but very easy to replicate. I give Treyarch mad props on consistently creating steps that were easy to replicate despite being insanely tough to find. This gave the hardcore players exactly what they wanted, and the casuals had a chance to watch a guide and replicate the steps easily. Now this continued throughout BO4, except Treyarch added a lot more side Easter eggs to keep us even more busy. Now even to this day, I have reasons to go back and play BO4 and solve Easter eggs. And hey, Treyarch, if you're watching this video, I'd really appreciate another hint. My DMs are always open. Following Black Ops 4, our Easter egg community was now well-seasoned vets looking for any challenge ahead. But then came along Cold War. This is where the end of the era happens. No more difficult to solve, easy to replicate. No more need for guides, and hey, no more challenges. Alright, so now let's go back to the viewpoint of the casual players saying that there's guided steps, and that's good because now they finally don't need a YouTube guide. Well, to me, the biggest misconception of a casual player is that they are trying to do the Easter egg in the first place. You know, after I talked to a lot of different casual players, they either A, didn't even know there was an Easter egg to do in the first place, or B, they just simply didn't care that much. So to cater to casual players who are out here frustrated over an Easter egg, that's kind of crazy because, you know, to me, that's a hardcore player who just sucks at the game. You know, casual is defined as somebody who does something irregularly or non-permanently. They are relaxed and unconcerned. So I don't know many casual players out here concerned over an Easter egg. And if you're one of these, as I'm calling it, hardcore players who sucks at the game and you're getting mad at me right now, then to me that tells me you have the drive to get better at the game, and there's a whole arsenal of people that are willing to help you get better at the game. But that also means to me that you are not a casual player. Casual players just want to log in and have some fun every few days. And yes, I agree, there should totally be something for them to enjoy. Maybe this new outbreak mode. I don't know, just something needs to happen for those people to enjoy the same things that I enjoy. That's what I'm trying to work towards. But to take away an entire game mode that's been established for over a decade as a certain difficulty level, that's insane to take that away from people. That's like Dark Souls apologizing for being too difficult. It's just not going to happen. Casual players are not the ones driving the player base forward. Casual players don't really care about Easter eggs or the storyline. And hey, if they do, then it's on them to learn how to hunt and play the game, just like it was on me 10 years plus ago to learn how to hunt and play the game. And my main point I'm trying to make with all this is that they've set a certain difficulty level and gameplay style for over a decade, and now they're just radically throwing that out and changing it for a player base that doesn't really care in the first place. And to me, that's absolutely insane. But let me reel this back in because I'm sure a lot of you guys have a lot of opinions right now, and some of you are probably upset. So let me approach this and explain this in a very different way. Okay, for this scenario, you have a class full of children. The teacher walks in and assigns some reading. Now, most of the kids are able to read this despite it being a grade level above. Some kids took to it naturally, whereas some others need a little bit of help, but they all managed. But then there's that one kid who sits in the back, we're going to name Kyle, who doesn't care about reading because guess what? This kid never learned how to read. Maybe he would care, but he was never taught, so then he decided he just doesn't care. And now it's the next week and the teacher walks in and hands out some more reading. This time it's yet another grade level above. Now the kids would normally find this a little too difficult, but since they practiced the week before, this now is very doable. So the teacher continues the progression of slightly increasing the difficulty of reading for these kids, and they're better off because now they can all read at a much higher level and they feel more accomplished. But then one week the teacher walks in with a pop-up picture book, and not only that, but she reads it aloud to the class. The class is now confused and doesn't like this easy nature of this picture book, but guess who does? That's right, Kyle, the kid who never learned how to read. And now the teacher's reading aloud to class, and Kyle's absolutely loving it because he gets to participate. Meanwhile, the rest of the class is left to twiddle their thumbs. Now, my point of the story is to explain why easier Easter eggs are actually hurting the Easter egg community. And yes, it is helping the casuals out now, that is, if they actually care about the Easter egg, but the community that defined the Easter eggs is now twiddling our thumbs. Treyarch is basically giving the advanced student a preschool assignment and expecting us to absolutely love the easy nature of it. That's like giving an Olympic weightlifter a 5-pound weight and saying, "Hey bro, I bet you can't rep that 2 times." It's just not a natural progression. You just don't give someone increasingly hard challenges and then switch out of nowhere to a vastly easier style. So why did Treyarch change out of nowhere? Why did they so boldly switch to guided steps? Well, according to them, after years of creating a difficult main Easter egg, they weren't seeing a large enough number of players engaging in them to justify actually creating them. They say that only 2% of players were actually experiencing or doing the Easter eggs. Treyarch wanted to change things up, so for guided steps, Treyarch believed it would help grow our community, help give casuals a chance to do an Easter egg, and allow the storyline to make even more sense. But by doing so, they also hurt hardcore hunters, they hurt the longevity of the maps, they hurt content creators, and it ruined the natural progression of the evolution of zombies. And I also want to take a moment to talk about something I haven't heard many people talk about yet. And that's that, are these easy Easter eggs actually pulling in the casual player base like Treyarch thinks they are? And to me, that's a no. To me, zombies, unlike any of the years before it, is now the casual mode. Before, multiplayer was the casual mode, and zombies was meant for more of the hardcore fans. But ever since Warzone entered the mix, zombies has now become the game mode for casuals. And despite what Treyarch might think, most casual players I've spoken to in the last few weeks only play zombies because they want the camos or the calling cards. They aren't there because they recently discovered a love for the mode, but they play because all of Call of Duty is now mixed into the game mode with Warzone and the campaign and zombies. And I mean, look at the new Outbreak event. If you want to get it, you have to go play Warzone and zombies. So most casual players are merely stopping by to get the reward. So it's hard for me to understand why Treyarch has now changed an entire playstyle just to cater to the people who don't really care at the end of the day. And now going back to Treyarch's pros and cons list, yes, the positives were achieved, but when weighed against the negatives, I personally don't believe it is the proper solution. Now I'll get to all the things throughout this video by breaking down every aspect of what an Easter egg brings to the game mode. So let's start off by diving into the storyline and what's being affected. Okay, so now that I've gone through the progression of the Easter eggs, I now want to take a moment to go through the storyline and how that's affected by Easter eggs. The storyline obviously starts all the way back in Noct, but for the general hype and interest, it starts affecting the mode starting back in Black Ops 1. And with Ascension introduced, the storyline got escalated by Easter eggs. Now Treyarch had a way to drive the storyline forward, which led to major opportunities that we saw in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4. The problem with this, according to Treyarch, was that no one was actually experiencing the full story. But that's where I start to believe that the data is a little bit wrong. Most casual players weren't invested in the storyline, and so it wasn't a lack of accessibility for them, but more lack of interest. The story wasn't being pushed on them because most likely they didn't buy the DLCs back in the day when they cost money, like the hardcore players did. So the 2% of players experiencing the story seems a little incorrect to me, since it's basing it off of all maps when really it should be going off of only release maps. Which brings me back to my previous point that casuals don't care about the storyline because it's only being shown to them through every release map. That's like watching episode 1 of every season of a show and then trying to know what's going on. So to make a DLC or a season free in Cold War was actually a really good move. But the way the storyline, in my opinion, should have progressed is to have the hardcore Easter egg deliver the storyline, and then once solved, then they could add a completed intel in-game going over everything. That way the casuals and the hardcore players get to experience the storyline in a way that suits them. So with the storyline being played out through the Easter eggs, this created a heap of lore for players to get into and really grow the community. This is still true today, however the lore is cut back significantly. There's no vague or cryptic side Easter eggs or ciphers that go unsolved for months, allowing for people to theorize about the storyline. Now everything is solved in just a few hours and there's no mysterious lore to talk about. It's all laid out very plain and simple with only a couple major plot points left a mystery. Now why is this such a big deal? Well, without the tedious Easter eggs and storyline lore to keep the community busy and guessing, there's no longevity to the storyline. The hype surrounding this lore and possible theories drove the community during the downtimes in the previous games. It used to open up a whole new avenue of discussions when players talked about zombies, but looking at today, the storyline is so simple and straightforward that it nearly eliminated the discussions as a whole, as well as the need for even the Easter eggs. Without difficult side Easter eggs and major storyline ciphers hidden among the map, there's a lack of excitement or hype surrounding the game mode. Ciphers do still exist, but they're solved almost instantly. Ciphers in Black Ops 4 are still being solved. To me, this is a clear representation of just how much more work went into designing the Easter eggs back in the day. Easter eggs are now hurting the storyline, the community, and the longevity of the mode. After saying all of this stuff, I want to explain why this is even happening in the first place. So let's look at Treyarchs Needs and what that meant for Call of Duty 2021. To better understand why these eggs are now easier, we need to look at the state the game is in. Now, it's no mystery that Treyarch wasn't initially supposed to make this current Call of Duty. So looking at development time, there's obviously a lot less time to create a game than the previous years allotted for. So that meant that Treyarch had to act quick and figure out a way to push the franchise even further in a shorter window. Now, since Call of Duty's been around for a long time, they aren't necessarily struggling, but due to games like Fortnite and others, they're now having to compete for the FPS player base now more than ever. This is why Blackout was introduced in the first place, and after that trial, the almighty Warzone was created. Warzone, in my opinion, saved Call of Duty, but also ruined Call of Duty. Warzone's massive success drove Activision to say, Warzone this, Warzone that. You know what? We need more Warzone. So now Treyarch was in a bind to create the next title during a global pandemic on a new console generation, and oh yeah, it's due practically right now. So with Warzone being pushed into everything, it's no surprise that Zombies is now heavily based around Warzone. And I have no issue with this, other than the fact that they took away my precious shield. But why talk about Warzone during a Zombies video? I mean, I guess you could argue that I've lost my mind, but it's also to set the scene for the mentality that Call of Duty is in 2021. They needed to expand, they needed to revamp, and they needed something simple. And Warzone was their answer to this dilemma, which is fine. And this same mentality had to carry out through Zombies. Treyarch needed to follow suit, create a mode for even more people, and deliver a new experience with something that's more simple. The pandemic, consoles, budgeting, time restraints are all no doubt a huge setback for Treyarch's devs, which is why I'm not upset that things went the way they did despite what you guys might think. Treyarch needed to expand in a new way and I support that. My issue is with how they will proceed from here, because at the moment they're hurting the OG community of hunters, content creators, and longtime fans of the mode with their oversimplified Easter eggs and game mechanics. The fans of Zombies are loyal to a point, but if continued this way, I fear that the new method is going to ultimately be the downfall of the game mode. After Treyarch spoke out about the easier Easter egg approach, it seems to me that they intend on keeping this style forever, or at least for the rest of Cold War, which is exactly why I'm creating this video. To not just break down and criticize the current system, but to offer solutions as well. Our community is very divided, and it pains me to see so many long-term fans, myself included, so upset over the current status. All right, in case you're sitting here and you're fuming with me and you just disagree with everything I've said, let me really break down the facts and go over the most important thing, which is how the Easter eggs affect the maps as a whole, and go into this next section, which I'm going to call Map Overview. All right, to start this section off, let's look at some numbers. All right, so let's go into Black Ops 1's main Easter eggs. And just to be clear, we're talking about the main Easter eggs. I'm going to say that one more time. We're talking about just the main Easter eggs. Okay, so looking at Ascension, that took 3 days to solve. This is the first Easter egg ever and arguably one of the easier ones, but it still took 3 full days. Now we go into Call of the Dead, a little bit more experienced, and that took 2 days. Shangri-La once again took 2 days. Now we move into Moon. At this point, we're pretty well seasoned at this point, and it took 1 full day to solve that Easter egg. Now let's go into Black Ops 2. We're starting with Transit, that took 2 days to solve. Die Rise also took 2 days to solve. Then Mob of the Dead took just over a full day, but that was a little bit easier of an Easter egg considering you build the plane a few times and collect the audio reel. Very fun, but it wasn't that difficult. But that still took over a day. Now we move into Buried and Origins, which also both took 2 days to solve. And at this point, I'm sure you can start to see a trend that it's taking multiple days to solve the main Easter egg. Now we move into Black Ops 3, which like I said earlier is the hallmark for difficult Easter eggs. Looking at Shadows of Evil, the base map, it took 6 full days to solve. Now we move into Dreisendrach, which took 2 days, and then Zetsubo no Shima took 22 hours, which was a really big deal, but I'll come back to that in just a moment. Krovi, moving on, it took a full day to solve, and then Revelations took a whopping 9 days. And now we move into Black Ops 4, where 9 or IX took 3 days, Voyage of Despair took 4 days, Blood of the Dead took 6 days, and then Classified took a ridiculous 25 days. But I'm actually going to omit Classified from the data because it actually wasn't possible without crashing unless you manipulated the game. So to me, that's not really fair, and I'm sure it would have only been solved in a matter of a few days. And along with Classified, I'm going to omit Dead of the Night and Alpha Omega, seeing as that those times might have been compromised and there's a lot of drama surrounding the times it took to solve it and how and all that stuff. So I'm just going to move forward with the other maps. So with Ancient Evil, that took just over 1 day to solve, and then with Tag der Toten, the final map, that took around 12 hours to solve. Now with all the times on all the Treyarch Zombies maps, I want to go back to Zetsubo no Shima, which again took 22 hours. Now that was such a big deal at the time because it was the shortest ever Easter egg. People were not happy with the 22-hour search, but that was 22 hours, which is still really good in today's terms. And then we move into Black Ops 4 with Tag der Toten taking around 12 hours, which should have had people outraged, but it didn't because Black Ops 4 had an arsenal of side Easter eggs, and the players knew that. So when the main Easter egg is done, they knew that they could go hunt to their heart's content for side Easter eggs, which is why I love Black Ops 4's style of side Easter eggs. And since the dust is now settled on all these games and we've had a chance to look at the data, we now know that it took around 2 days on average to solve the main Easter eggs. And whether you hated a game or loved the game, you could always rely on that 2-day average to be delivered on all the main Easter eggs. And with that being said, now let's look at Cold War's stats. So Die Maschine took around 2.5 hours to solve. Firebase Z took 2 hours and 17 minutes. Now, I also want to mention that back in the day, the side Easter eggs weren't even considered until the main Easter egg was solved. But now, in 2 hours, we're seeing the main Easter egg and several of the side Easter eggs solved. This is way, way too easy, and it's killing every bit of the map. People got upset when Raven the Redwoods took around 6 hours, but at this point, I would consider myself lucky if we had a 6-hour hunt. With this short hunt on the main and side Easter eggs, players are now losing all of the hype. The longevity of the map dies in only a couple days with nothing to hunt. And more importantly, the future hype for all upcoming DLCs or seasons dies a little bit too. Because now knowing going forward that all Easter eggs are going to be solved in just a couple hours, that makes me really sad and also uninterested in the future. You're killing your game, Treyarch, by doing this. Casual players are not the ones that drive your game forward. Casual players don't care about the storyline because guess what? Casual players don't care about zombies. And with all of this combined, I couldn't just sit by idly and not voice my opinion on something that truly affects my life. And along with easy Easter egg steps killing all the hype, then they added intel into the Cold War Zombies Easter eggs. Now, intel, first off, great idea. I absolutely love it and I support it. But what I don't support is the fact that they locked the very few Easter eggs that do exist behind intel. This is the worst idea I've ever seen. Now, I know that not all Easter eggs are locked behind intel, but there's a majority of these ciphers and side Easter eggs that are locked behind intel. This means that 2 players can do the exact same thing, but one gets the right intel and the other one gets the wrong intel. That is the definition of an unfair hunt. And for those of you that joined the community this year and have no idea what I'm talking about with the previous years had ciphers hidden on papers or on walls or hidden in skulls or audio lines that every player could experience at the exact same time, which gave a very fair hunt. And this kind of unfairness is exactly what happened to my team firsthand with the satellite Easter egg on Die Maschine. We found the first part and then we couldn't solve the last half despite knowing it was a cipher, but none of us could get the right RNG on intel, which just surprised me that they could have made this poor of a design despite having the trademark slogan of they want all players to have a fair and equal footing this year. Locking Easter eggs behind intel, whether they're difficult or easy, is not only unfair, but it's incredibly unsatisfying. This creates less hype for hunting and once again kills the map shortly after release. I feel like a dog right now with a cone on my head being told to, no, you just sit there and just wait for the intel. If you still don't agree with me, then just look at the player base. The hunting is done in record time. All tweets and videos are done in a week's time or less. And the real excitement nowadays is speedruns or glitches. Whereas in previous Call of Duty Zombies, people spent months engaging in the map, discussing it and making videos and all sorts of things. And all of this combined brings me to my next topic, which is something I have firsthand in. And of course, I'm talking about content creators and how we're being affected by this. This year's made a major dent in several people's channels. Now, I can only speak for myself as to how I personally truly feel, but after reaching out to multiple people, I've gotten a sense of camaraderie for the most part that this is affecting more people than just myself. Look, I'm an Easter egg hunter. I started a channel to hunt and post guides about Easter eggs. And when the hunt and every single side Easter egg is solved in a matter of hours, my channel only gets about 2 days of attention before I need to worry about whatever's next. But whatever is next is certainly not going to be about Easter eggs. Alongside the lack of content, there really isn't a need for guides nowadays, with how simplified everything is. So to go from around 10,000 views per guide to now 300 is a significant drop. And after looking into other people's channels, I'm seeing two things. Either they too are losing a lot of views no matter the size of the channel, or they're having to adapt into another source, whether it's a new game mode or a game or style of video. This is all because the eggs are way too easy. By the time the main Easter egg is solved, channels are now having to finish the live stream where they hunted it, and then immediately go start all the side Easter egg videos and the main Easter egg guide, which is just flooding the market with way too many videos. Now it's causing primarily larger channels to absorb all the major views because now the market's flooded and no one knows where to go. And with views already way down, smaller channels are now suffering majorly during this game's life cycle. And full-time creators are now having to branch out in order to fill the void between maps as well, like Pokemon or whatever. Side Easter eggs used to carry our community during the downtime, and I know better than anyone that they could make a channel grow off of solving an Easter egg. Now with all side Easter eggs solved super quick, no one person or team is getting a chance to stand alone. This is a huge way for small channels to break through nowadays. Now that there's so many people doing this, it's so hard to break through. This was a really good opportunity for a lot of small channels. And now that that's gone, there needs to be a way to grow as a small channel. And don't get me wrong, I do know that there's ways to grow, but that was a major way for small channels to grow at this point. Now, the thing I'm trying to get across is that without content creators getting the views or the content to make, the storyline is actually suffering. Because going back to what I mentioned earlier about how YouTube used to be the organizational method and it gave a voice to the community, well, that's still somewhat true. Even though it's more individualized, it was still true. So now without content to make, there's nobody making videos on storylines or theories or generating hype. And so the game mode actually suffers without any organizational method. And so with the game dying in less than a week, now it's back to Warzone. This means that easy Easter eggs are really hurting us. So please, Treyarch, please hear what I'm saying. Alright, so far in this video, I've gone over the history of the Easter eggs, the storyline, and what guided steps are and how they affect us, the state that Call of Duty is in, and how the maps are being affected and how content creators are suffering. And whether you agree with me or not, I'm going to now go into my solution for all this. My goal is to not argue with people, but in turn express my opinion, give some organization to those that are like-minded, and then come to an agreement with those who are not. Moving forward with zombies is something that every single person is all seeking out. I'm just hoping that this video can give us something to aim for as a community. And to be honest, my solutions are more of a jumping off point because I expect them to change. I expect to talk to people and work them out a better solution. So I'm just going to give you guys something to start with so that we can work towards a better future. So first and foremost, I would like harder steps. I mean, that one's kind of obvious, but I understand why people like easier steps. And now it's more apparent than ever that we can't live in a world with purely difficult steps or purely easy steps. So here's what I suggest for Treyarch moving forward. Create a difficult to solve and easy to replicate egg on par with Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4. Then once solved, update the game, giving intel for the storyline for those players who don't really care about the Easter egg. As for these side Easter eggs, Black Ops 4 was an amazing way to design the Easter eggs. Now, for the casuals who want to do the Easter egg, you could also have a casual mode like you did in Black Ops 4. But instead of locking all Easter eggs out of the casual mode like you did in Black Ops 4, you could offer a map-specific quest that is easy and maybe similar to the Outbreak quest. And with this, it could result in perhaps a video or even more intel so that the casual player gets to do a couple steps, guided of course, and then they get to do something that results in a storyline development and feel a little bit accomplished. Because let's be honest, the casual players are not actually seeking out the main Easter egg. They might want to do something that makes them feel a little bit better, but they're not really interested in the main Easter egg. This gives them a way to feel accomplished, and it gives the hardcore players a way to stay in their little world without having it affected. And if you really want to go hard, you could add a boss fight mode like Infinite Warfare Zombies. That way casuals can go experience it if they want to and aim for the fences. The hardcore players are pleased and they have a lot of fun, and it's also really good for content creators and making videos. And with all this, they could appeal to the hardcore players and the casuals, as well as offer a whole new game style as well. And like Outbreak, they could use those same simple little missions and incorporate those into the casual mode that I'm talking about and make everyone happy. And acknowledging Outbreak as a new mode, I know that they're trying to really push that forward. So maybe that's the mode that they make the story quest easier for the casual players. And that way you just leave the main Easter eggs hard for the hardcore players and then give the casual players some sort of story quest in the Outbreak. And maybe they all kind of tie into the same storyline. And I might be a little bit naive as to how much dev time Treyarch has moving forward, but I don't really feel like this is that much to ask. I mean, breaking it down, you keep the main Easter egg hard like they've been doing for 12 years. You add a boss fight mode, which is essentially copying and pasting the boss fights as they come. And then you add the Outbreak mode, which they've already proven they can handle. And that's where you add the story quests, which, hey, they already have decided to do that. So to me, this isn't that crazy to ask for, but it would make everybody so much happier. Now, to the outsider looking in, harder Easter eggs might seem very simple, but it affects everything in our community, whether you do Easter eggs or not. Harder steps let our community bond over challenges, and it opens the door for new players to gain success. The hype is vital for the longevity of the mode, and easy steps are absolutely killing it. My fear if easy steps continue in Call of Duty Zombies is that the OG community will fall off and they're going to seek out other games because it's already starting to happen. Zombies will be catered to purely casuals and in turn separate the players who made the community in the first place. The replayability will no longer exist because it's already dead. People go back to Black Ops 3 and 4 and play those Easter eggs hundreds of times, whereas I've done Firebase maybe like 5 times, and I'm not alone in that. And honestly, whether the storyline's good or not, it's going to suffer if this is how it's continued. And my biggest fear with all of this is that the community's backbone is going to get broken. I mean, I'm going to truly miss those epic moments. The thrill of the multiple day hunts, the feeling of solving a side Easter egg after months and months of hunting, and seeing the way that the community would then bond over these crazy theories and then get super hyped for the upcoming maps, unlike anything that we see today. And then no matter what, you could always rely on Treyarch delivering. And if you're just now joining our community, then I am truly, truly sorry for you. You've missed out on an amazing decade, and that's why I'm making this video, so that I can fight to get back the game mode that I grew up on, so that people can experience what I did. Because I just don't want to see zombies die over something like easy Easter egg steps, something I never saw coming from Treyarch. And to close this video, I just want to clarify that I'm not trying to eradicate easy steps nowadays. I understand they have a purpose, and that's amazing that they are attracting new players. And what I'm trying to say is that by wiping the slate clean of the game mode that we became accustomed to, it's ripped the rug out from the hardcore community that stood by this game mode for so long. Casual players are not going to keep this game going when the Treyarch changes. And whether it's coming from my video or somebody else's, or a tweet, or somebody walking down the street, all I'm asking Treyarch is that when you hear these words, please, please listen. And to the community, we are so close to having a perfect game, and I urge you that if you want to see a change, then please, please stay positive above all else. Ripping something apart is not the way forward either. We need to vocalize our opinions, but also offer solutions and constructive criticism. So please, please, let's come together as a community once again and then strive for a solution to this problem, because clearly the way this is right now is not working for everyone. And if you want to share your thoughts, then please comment below or tweet me or join my Discord that's linked below, and I'm always down to have an open discussion. And thank you to everyone who watched this video, whether you agree with me or not. I know it was a long video, but I had a lot to say because I'm really passionate about this topic. And to Treyarch, I believe in your ability to deliver an amazing game, but please consider the hunting community's voice. Let's work together to get back the Easter eggs that we all know and love. My name is AbSOULeM, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.